Hello. I am I'm here. I just recorded Critically Stupid. I hope people watch that show. I feel like it's getting progressively better. I mean, obviously progressively better. It's not stupid. I've been drinking. I drink a bunch of wine. I don't always drink when I play Critically Stupid. I actually most of the time I drink coffee because I'm just like I'm scared that my brain will be fast enough to keep up with some of the funny things that people say on that show. I've always been, it's weird. Like I hate having that insecurity, but the reality of the situation is I'm a writer. I'm someone who's I've always been I have like the wit of the staircase, that whole thing. Like I'm the person who's like after the fact, I think of the perfect thing to say and I'm like, I should have, why didn't I say this? This was the perfect order of words for that particular moment. Why is it not, like, why is it just now finding me? Or I find that moment and then like I edit it and I'm like, ooh, I thought of like three better things. Like I do the Judd Apatow like Linerama situation that happens after the fact. That's why he does that, right? He's like, look, I can write a script, I can come up with stuff, but if I do this, I'm gonna come up with a bunch of things as time progresses, and it's gonna get better and better and better. That's how I feel, and and I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with my life as a writer and being like, like writing is rewriting. You write something, you recognize the faults, the follies, the lesser, attempts, and you do what you can to improve it with what you have at that time. And it's easier to see, and like it's easier to see what doesn't work and kill it in a sort of like natural selection, in a situation with writing. You're like, this doesn't work. I can do better than this. This is, more likely to survive in this, thrive in this condition. But in real time, like having to be like quick on my feet and as witty as someone else, and also, I've realized I have a little bit of a setback with not wanting to interrupt people, because like when you're close with someone, you have this relationship, or I build this. I should speak with my I statements. I build this relationship with someone. Like when I talk to Steven, I will often interrupt Steven, and we will back and forth, um, share our own experiences as they associate, with one another, and we will continue to climb this, whatever conversational ladder we're climbing. Some people find that to be rude, and some people find that to be like, egocentric or whatever. Because they don't recognize, the whole of the intention, or recognize like the nuance of character that you have, but when you're with someone who's your best friend, they know, like Steven knows, like I love him. I only want, like I truly just want to connect, and I want us to actually like have this conversation. So when you're with someone that like really knows you, you can have those sort of like um imperfect conversational, tete-a-tetes. You go back and forth and you kind of volley the words back and forth as you build the meaning of a conversation. Like the nuance fills in this, like, beautiful like concrete poem that you're creating with your words together. um when you're talking to when you're talking to people who aren't necessarily your best friend, often, if you have like if you interrupt them and you're like, oh well, I this is my association I make with that thing, they're like, you sound like an asshole. And then like, and like that's, and rightfully so. They don't, like you don't always like in the thick of things have the you're not always like socially equipped. You're not always, it's not always the most reasonable thing for people to take a second and think like, oh, where is this actually coming from subjectively? And what happens is you just like, you kind of throw it in like whatever pile, bucket, you just define it as a thing, and you define it as like, they're not listening to me, they're focusing on them. And there's like, that's not necessarily the intention. It's, but that is a thing that gets conditioned into us, and so we, and like oftentimes that is the case. Not always the case. Nothing is always the case, right? So what happens to me is I start to fear that I'm going to be defined as like the egocentric person, or the person who is like interrupting, or the person who is making a moment about themselves rather than listening. So what happens to me in D&D and in a lot of other cases is I don't I don't respond. I don't react. I don't have that like, hey, here's my association, which is really what like that's what jokes are. That's what, that's what happens when you're listening to a funny show and someone's like, this is the thing that happened in my brain. It's a firework that happened right here, and I'm giving it to you and letting you see it. But what happens conversationally in real life when you're talking to the general public, or like, a person who isn't your best friend, they'll often see that spark, and they'll say, why are you celebrating? This is my moment. Stop setting off your fireworks. This is my, like, this is my time. Your fireworks, like, put them away. Stop lighting that fuse. So for me, I have to overcome that fear, like that social fear of being defined as rude or inconsiderate, or whatever it is, like, because really the priority in the moment isn't as much as, like, we want to be considerate of others, and conversationally, the priority is the entertainment and responding and being fun and funny, and like that joviality that you create as, like, building a best friendship is what we're really doing. But what happens is I'm not there yet personally with these people. Like, I really love these people. Like, like, I really enjoy all of our time together. But like, it's like Steven, I've been best friends with Steven since I was a literal child. So it's like, it's easy for me to just be like, look, this is fully me. I'm okay with just being myself with you, because I know, you know who I am. So, like, no matter how I respond to you in the moment, you understand what my intention is. You understand who I am in this moment. And it's not someone who's trying to overwhelm you, or like, be above you, or like, say, like, stop you from being, like, be a priority above you. I am simply engaging in this moment in time with you. We are dancing in this weird conversation together. But I also am a person who's, like, I've been, like, in my life I've been accused of being like a narcissist by someone, or like they're like sociopathic or whatever. And it's like, I have, like, just like anyone else, I have issues with communicating, and I want people to see me as I truly am. Like, I want to communicate and be there for people, and elevate people when I can, or just support people when I can, and be there as a person. So anyway, my whole point is, I'm playing D&D, and sometimes I feel like I'm not able to achieve the height of the entertainment, because I'm not necessarily as vulnerable or as comfortable as I could be, because I'm scared socially of being defined as this thing that, like, people, like, one person really has said about me in the past. And it's like, I hate that. I hate that. Like, I just want, like, I know it's just a silly subjective perspective, and I wish it, it weren't true, that, like, I don't want anyone to ever feel that thing about me. And I hope no one ever does otherwise. But I feel like there's that fear that, like, keeps me slow. Like, I feel like there's that, like, timidity that keeps me from just responding to people, because, like, I have thoughts that, like, I'm just like, I thought of this funny joke. Sometimes I whisper it, and, like, I've been called out by the DM for doing that, where I'm just like, sometimes I'll whisper jokes to myself instead of just saying them, because I'm like, I don't actually want to stop the moment and make it about my joke. But the whole point of the show is to be entertaining. So, like, of course I should just say the joke and just like, allow the consequence, right? It's frustrating. It's so frustrating to just kind of dance around these weird social norms that I don't, I understand them in certain contexts, and in other contexts they don't necessarily seem to make much sense. And, like, that's why I personally have always felt like a more of like a chaotic good person than like a chaotic, like, a lawful good person. Like, I want to be good, but at the same time, like, look, there are instances in which the standard rules as they apply in, like, like general civilization, don't apply in this moment. It doesn't apply, and it certainly doesn't benefit anyone. And I did, like, I feel like everyone would be slightly better off if we were to kind of, like, let ourselves free of those, like, particular social restraints. And just struggle with it. I've struggled with it a little bit tonight, and I get anxiety. That's where those breaths come from. And I also just don't breathe while I talk. So then I just like exhaust myself. And then my body's like, hey, do the thing. Um, anyway, I don't know. I'm just living is so interesting, like it's a frustrating dance. And it's like we have these silly, goofy instruments and we spend all this time tuning them with our respective experiences and our subjective perspective of the world, and we do what we can to create these instruments and play a song. And sometimes I'm scared to play my song because I don't want it to be overwhelming or discordant. I don't want it to seem as if I'm trying to overwhelm anything, but sometimes I just want to sing my song as like as the respective soundtrack of a particular moment. Like I want to be able to harmonize with people and feel that I'm here with them at the same time, and it's okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be vilified for not being perfect, um but I felt that tonight, and what I really felt though, which was really cool, was even in those moments when like I do say a silly joke or I like come up with something, I do feel supported by the people in the D&D group. I do feel that like my friends from Critically Stupid are there, and even when it's something that I'm just like, oh, and I feel insecure about it, I'm not sure how it's going to be received. At the very least, I don't feel like I'm ever attacked. I don't feel like I'm ever vilified. I don't feel like I'm ever hated for having things to say. And I just, I hate the fact that anyone's ever silenced or like conditioned into silence, or into timidity through, that social subjective, like redefining of a character, I'm just, I want to continue to be myself because I think I'm a good person. I'm trying really hard. And I think it's nonsense that any of us go through that. And I'm sorry. Like if you're out there right now and you ever feel that, and you ever feel like, like your voice is like, had the volume turned down, you've been muted by the fear of, subjective perspective or whatever it may be. Um, I hope all of us, myself included, find the courage, to just turn up the volume a little bit, because fuck those people. Fuck those people. We are awesome, all of us, myself included. And I don't know. I'm proud of myself for doing this show. I'm proud of myself for doing freaking We Have Issues and saying all the things I say and supporting all the things I support. And thank you. Thank you for being there and pushing the volume button up a little bit for me, because it's not easy. So thank you. I appreciate you.